I'm Mike Vardy.
Meal planning is important because it prevents us from being a disappointed wreck when dinner time comes around and we have no clue what to make, or even if we have the ingredients to make the meal. It's a time and a money saver, but most importantly, it frees up valuable brain space. Creating a meal plan prepares us for the week to come and gives us peace of mind that we're organized and can feed ourselves and our family. That's why I do it, and that's why Plan to Eat helps me do it. Your subscription includes access to the Plan to Eat website and fully featured mobile apps on iOS and Android. And Plan to Eat gives you the tools to clip and organize recipes from any website, the ones your family loves and that fit your dietary preferences and needs. And you can create a meal plan around your schedule. Then what happens is the Plan to Eat software automatically creates an organized shopping list based on your plan. So sign up for your free trial at plantoeat.com/timecrafting. That's plantoeat.com/timecrafting. The coupon will be automatically applied to your account and can be used when you're ready to subscribe. It's valid for new customers only. Give Plan to Eat a try today.
And this is the Productivityist Podcast. It's always great when I can have a friend on the show who I've known for a few years and we get into some really cool conversations, but it's always really great when the person can actually be here in the room with me. And that's what happens with David Knapp-Fisher this week on the show. We talked about a lot of stuff, kind of the idea of saying hello, owning knowledge, that isn't necessarily always keeping the connections alive, our mutual admiration of Derek Sivers, the idea to connect, and really just the power of saying hello. This is my conversation with my good friend David Knapp-Fisher here on the Productivityist Podcast. Hello, David.
Mike, good afternoon.
I just asked David before we jumped on. I'm like, what was the number one trick that you said when you did a talk at Social Media Camp? And he said, say hello first. So there you go. I said it first.
You did. Very well done. And I'm not going to spoil the surprise by saying we've been talking for 20 minutes already.
You just did spoil the surprise. That's it.
I did.
So, David, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Great, Mike. Thank you. It's great to finally be here.
Let's first off, for those in my audience who don't know who you are, I think it's probably the best way to start is just dive in a little bit about you, maybe a little bit about your background, as well as what you're doing now and what you're kind of where you're headed.
Sure, sounds great. So I'm a guy who basically bumbled through school, didn't do really well. I'm one of those guys who never graduated, but knew I was smart, but not book smart. So what I did is I started studying books and successful people, working hard, and found myself in the hospitality industry. And I started out as a chef, which was rather good, and a lot of hard work, long hours, not fun, and wanted to be with people. So I got to the front of the house, and that's where I really found that connecting with people was amazing. I got to meet amazing people, talk with them, learn from them, help them do things. And so I spent the next 30 years of my life in a hospitality career, and I just loved it. Became a corporate hotel executive, business owner, and ultimately 2 years ago I decided to step away from that life to take everything that I've learned over those 30 years and beyond to share those stories and the techniques that I've learned on how to connect with people to live a richer, more full life.
Let's talk about how we first connected.
Yeah, it's a great story.
So, World Domination Summit 2015.
Yes.
We are there. I remember the first memory I have of you is we're outside the theater, if I remember correctly. Were we in the theater?
We were at a party.
We were at a party, okay.
We were at a party, and you walked out, and I looked at your badge, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, you saw me first. That's right. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And so that was your first WDS, too, wasn't it?
My first WDS,
right.
Yes.
So I think at the time I was probably looking, once you've been to a few of them, as you know this now, you're looking for the people that you already know, right, as well as making new acquaintances. And Victorians down at WDS, there have been a few.
There's definitely been a few.
Yeah. But that year, there was only, I think, one person that I knew at the time,
okay,
Rita,
right,
who goes every year. Like, she's been, I think, every year except for the first one. Okay. So I still have that title. And
he is wearing the crown now, folks.
But so you ran into me and we started chatting. But we were both from Victoria. The first time we met and got to hang out was really at WDS, and it wasn't even so much in 2015, because in 2015 we got to talk, and I remember sitting in theater. I was right behind you for a part of it.
Yeah.
But in 2016 we were roommates.
And first of all, I have to say the funniest thing is that Mike and I actually live 4 blocks from each other, and I love this. And it was like, are you kidding me? We've never met. And then 2016, we were roommates. And although we didn't see each other all day, we literally had a date every morning at Starbucks for 45 minutes, recapped, caught up, talked about the stuff at home. I mean, it's serendipity at its best, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, again, you've all heard me talk about the World Domination Summit before. So there again, some more World Domination Summit magic. But let's talk about the connecting, because that's kind of what we've become good friends, and through that connection. So when someone is trying to build connection, and they want to do it in a way that's going to matter. And I think that's really what I want to get across here today is that when it comes to productivity, you know that I believe that productivity isn't just about speed.
Right.
It's about quality behind the speed. It's about intention plus attention. So how do you foster a connection that kind of lives up to that adage of, being intentional and also making sure that you foster it through paying attention to that connection down the line, or figuring out if you even want to?
Right. And I mean, all excellent questions. First off, I just want to comment on the fact that, it's not about speed. Absolutely. Because there's no point, as Covey would always talk about, putting the ladder up against the wrong wall. And that's what speed is. It's like putting all your energies in the wrong place. So, doing the right things at the right time just makes sense. One of the keys that I've learned to being productive is having the right knowledge. And what's really interesting is you can have the right knowledge, but have it in somebody else's head. And if you understand that concept, let me give you a great example. You may be the worst at math in the world. You may be the worst person in the world. That's why you hire an accountant. You own that knowledge, but it's in his head. But what if you don't say hello to that accountant? You'll never have that opportunity to gain that knowledge. Now, we're talking about accountants here. Let's talk about every other thing in the world. Let's just say you wanted to take up square dancing. If you don't go and approach somebody and say, hey, I hear you're a square dancer, you'll never get into that world. And this is why the very first key that I've learned for success in anything, from accountancy to square dancing to anything, is say hello first. And the key word there, of course, is first, because first is the leadership position. It means that you take responsibility for creating that connection. And that could be standing in the line waiting for a coffee, at the grocery store, bumping into a guy at WDS, wherever it is. Because the fact of the matter is, and I think this is really critical thinking, is the problem that you need to solve, or the problem that you can help solve, right, is out there in somebody else's world. So maybe if Mike has a problem, I can solve it by us connecting. We can help each other. Or if I have a problem, by saying hello to Mike, he can help me. Now multiply that by 1,000.
So I have a lot of people that connect with me quite regularly, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
My challenge, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, is the follow-up, is to foster it, is to make sure that you keep tabs on those. And how do you make that happen? Because I think that I see you always connecting. Like you're always, and it's not like you're not, you're working on you just finished up a book, right?
I'm almost there.
Yeah. And you've got a son that you take care of.
Yes.
And you've got a lot of irons in the fire. You run a great community in Victoria called Inspired Victoria.
Yes. Which is growing like wildfire.
So you're doing all this stuff, and yet you're still able, one of the things that marvels me is that you're able to stay connected, and not just like on a surface level, but like, it's authentic. Like it's that authentic connection versus just the happy birthday Facebook post that you see from people that you are friends with, right? Like you're actually deeply connecting with them.
Sure.
How do you help someone, maybe even like me, say, okay, here's how you can keep those fires burning. Here's how you can keep that connection alive, at least the ones you really want to. Because again, there's going to be some you won't. Consistently, so that they don't wither and die, and then the next time they hear from you, it's like, oh, what does Mike want, or what does so and so want?
No, it's a great question, and one of the challenges with Facebook is everybody's a friend. So suddenly we have 1,000 friends. Well, that's not real life. So let's kind of put that piece aside. what I try to do is if somebody's important to me that I can support and help, then I always keep correspondence. I do a lot of email correspondence. Why do I do that? Because it stays on my desktop, and then I always see those emails through. So, for example, I just had this today. I've been having a conversation with a friend. We've had a third friend that needed some support, and then, this and that. So we stayed on that conversation every day, and then when it was completed today, then I can put it off. So I always make sure things stay on my desktop until we've had the final word and we've put it to bed. But what's really important is if you have, say, 10 people that are critically important to you, friends, obviously family, but, make that effort, because if we're honest with ourselves, we'll say, I don't have time to do all that. And then we'll go on Facebook and waste 20 minutes looking at things. So it's really about priority, which is what you teach, productivity, and doing the right things first. And that's really key. And just one other thing I'd like to quickly mention is another key philosophy to connecting, I think it's actually almost more key than saying hello first, is always asking, how can I help you? Because the number one way to help ourselves is to help other people. It just opens up so many doors. I can honestly tell you, since I stopped working a regular job over 2 years ago, those two questions have absolutely transformed my life.
So, just to throw my own little ideas in here about this, is that for those of you that are struggling with maintaining those connections, and email is a great place to do that, but a lot of people get buried in all the other emails that show up. So there's a lot of incoming,
absolutely,
and then the outgoing is maybe what suffers. So in my mind, one of the things that would be helpful is there's two things, actually. Number one is that I've always said go into email with missions rather than questions. So always deal with your outgoing first, then deal with the incoming, number one. But number two is maybe, and Derek Sivers talks about this, and actually I was on a podcast with Pat Flynn, and we talked about the idea of theme. I theme my days. I theme my days. And whether you want to theme a day based on just call it connection day, or whether you want to do horizontal theming where it's okay, from 1 to 3, I'm going to focus on connecting. So that means I'm going to be in email and just connecting with people.
Right.
Being deliberate about it. And I think that that's the thing that gets lost, wouldn't you say, is the deliberate factor.
Well, you know what? I have one word for that, and that word is routine. And here's my deal. The book I'm writing is a lot about these, today I think somebody would say life hacks, but things that I've learned in my life, and then kind of they're illustrated. And one of the things that I've realized that's made me very good at this particular piece is my routine. I wake up first thing in the morning. I'm usually about a 6 o'clock riser. I go, I make my coffee, I sit in my bed, and I check 3 or 4 things that are very important to me in my life. My first is all my bank balances. I check them all. I like to know where every nickel I own or owe is. Secondly, I go on email, and I generally spend about 40 minutes on email, and that's when I answer all those questions. That's when I address all those things that are coming. If I make appointments, I put them in my calendar at that time. Everything is done. So when I get out of that bed, I know that my day is set and I've connected with all the people I need to. And a lot of those connections are setting up appointments to come and spend time with them. I find that the hour coffee is a fantastic way to connect with people, but it's got to be an hour. It can't be 3 hours. And it can only be once a month. And there's also, for lack of a better word, A, B, and C players. If somebody just wants to hang out and catch up because you knew them in high school, love to see you. But that's a bit of a C player. The people you're doing business with, the people you're supporting, the people who you're helping them achieve their goals, those are your A and B players depending on where they're at. And as you fill your calendar with those, I do all those from my bed every morning at 6:30 with my second cup of coffee. But then my day is full and I can pick and choose where I put my time and whom I'm connecting with.
So what I like about what you're saying here, as compared to what a lot of people do when they check email, is they're going email to see what others have in store for them. Do you know what I mean? That's exactly what a lot of people do. What you do instead is, and this is fascinating to me, because what I tell people to do is do the one thing that's most important to them first thing in the morning. Do it, and that's like a Gary Keller one thing kind of thing. But and I have my 3 absolutes. So one of my absolutes would be I would at least get one of those out of the way. What you're able to do, and this takes a ton of discipline, is the one important thing for you is to connect. And email, 40 minutes on email. For most people, they would never get out because they'd be dealing with all the stuff coming in as well as the stuff. So most people would be treading water all day because that's right. But you go in with the mission of my number one, and it's every day. That's the other great thing. It's every day. Is my mandate is my number one priority, which is really all a priority ever is there's only one, is to connect, and email is my platform, my medium to make that happen. So again, you're using email with intent. As emails come into you during that 40 minutes, are you?
They rarely come in at that time, but they do come out throughout the day.
Because you're early, you're hitting the outgoing early.
Yeah,
which is great. So you're able to go in with missions, and you've set it up in a way. And this is important. I want everybody to kind of really listen to this. Is whether you do that first thing in the morning or late in the evening, because you could do it either way.
Absolutely.
The key is that you're dealing with your stuff first.
Yes,
because. And I talk about this with clients as well. And I actually, I touch on this a little bit in my written work, but it's going to be more in my coaching and courses, is I have what's called serving mode and self-serving mode. So with some clients, I say, you're going to go to serving modes, you're going to serve others. But there's also some times where you need to be self-serving, where you need to build your own. And the ironic thing is that if you do self-serving mode right, you wind up serving others anyway.
Absolutely, and vice versa. I mean, when you're serving people, let me give you an example. So, Inspired Victoria, you were our first guest speaker. We have a guest speaker every month, and last month we had this terrific guy, Bradley Morris. And Brad is just this gregarious guy. He's full of love and passion, and he helps people create online e-courses. He's really wonderful. I found out that he had a client that did very well, and a friend of mine is in the same business. So I called up my friend, and I said, you really need to meet Brad. I'm going to just send an email and introduce you to. So I did that. That's me connecting. That's me serving others. Brad calls me back 2 days later, which was this morning, actually. Hey, I'm coming to town. Let's set up a breakfast for all of us. I've got two other friends. One, Adam Quiney is joining us, my friend Derek Ford. And suddenly we're going to have this cool little mastermind over eggs tomorrow morning. You should join us.
And Derek lives literally 2 doors down.
There we go. The magic of it all. The cool thing is we're going to have all of this because I said, how can I serve my friend Lorne? So I love this, right? And to me, people are like, it's so great you do this. And it's like, no, it was one email. And then it caught fire because people are interested. And I love that. I call it filling my cup. And by me helping them, it fills my cup too. And I think it's really important. And again, it gets back to this theme of as much as you can help other people, it's going to all come back to you. But you do have to be selective. I found as my influence has grown and my reach has grown, there's a lot of peripheral coming in as well.
Now, let's touch on this because this is where people, it's not everybody. I want to be clear, but arrogance can sometimes come into play. Not necessarily from you, but from others' impressions of you. And I'm not saying you in general. I'm talking about in general. So I'll give you an example.
Please.
When I started to use a scheduling program, I use Acuity Scheduling, and there's a link in the show notes. It's an affiliate link, so if you give it a try, you get a free trial and all that stuff. But I use it to set up boundaries for when people can book either to be on the podcast or for me to be on their podcast or to have. You don't ever get that link. You never get it, Dave. But that's that threshold of who gets what.
Yes.
When I first implemented that, I got backlash from some people, not from very many. In fact, most people understood that the reason I put this in place was to save everybody time, because what it was, hey, here's the link if you want to book a time. And initially what I had it set up was pick some times and I'll choose it. I eliminated that. So now anyone who books time with me, it's just automatically approved. If the time's there, you've got me. That was my one mistake initially. But I had some people saying, well, oh, really? You need a link to, you need me to book a time with you through this link? And I thought, that's no different than, to me, that's more personal than me to have an assistant do it, because that sends another message. But when you talked about the A player, B player, C player thing, I'm sure some people are going...
And that's not meant to be derogatory.
I know it's not.
It's participation in your life.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people would and again, I'm probably generalizing here, but people would say, oh, well, okay, I guess I'm not good enough for you. Like, how do you combat that? Or can you even combat that?
I hope that we have another hour because I have a lot to say about this. Mike, you've known me a long time. One thing that I think you can say is I'm a very nice guy, but I'm a very direct guy, and I put up very strong boundaries.
You are. This is why it'll probably be a very short episode. Actually, no, you talk a lot, but you're direct.
I'm direct. I'll get it right out there. By the way, I don't like your haircut. No, I'm kidding. You look great.
It hasn't been done today.
If somebody isn't bringing their part to the table, which is their participation, their support, and I just had an experience with this week. I'm very quick to say, how may I support you? But it's pretty much that's it. If they don't come back with that, I'm not mean or nasty. I just go, I just don't think that this person is feeding our mission. Mm-hmm. And I know this. Here's what happened. So I, as you know, and you've mentioned, I run this little group called Inspired Victoria that has recently ballooned up to 700 members. And
which, to be fair, in Victoria is a large group.
It's pretty good. Now, I'm not going to be so arrogant as to say 700 show up every time, but we're getting a good solid 9 to 10%. So 60, people are showing up to our meetings, which is great. And this organizing these kind of things takes a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And I put a lot of work, and I'm not paid for this. We run it, basically, we get a small fee to attend. I actually wind up giving a lot of that money back. This month, we're giving the entire teeth to Santa's Anonymous, the local charity, to help support families. So it's kind of a labor of love to meet and connect with people. But I recently had a member just contact me and say, I want to speak at your next meeting. I'm very passionate about this, but it wasn't a request. It was more of a demand, almost bullying situation. And this is somebody I've known for a fair time. And I just said, well, we can't really do this because I have plans. In fact, I'm planned 3 months out because it takes, I bring a lot of people from Vancouver. And this individual just became very arrogant with me, saying, oh, well, I thought this was our group. It's not your group. And I said, well, it's my group to the sense that I organize it, I start it, I pay for it, I bring the people in. I'd love anybody to speak. Well, this person was very offended by this. Mm-hmm. So I had one more conversation with them, tried to explain it, and then I had to make a decision. You can either get on the bus or out of the way. Yep. But I'm not going to sit there and bring down the standards or risk this kind of lower quality, quite frankly, coming into the group because we've worked hard to get it where we are. So that person would become a C or probably a D player if they chose to go away. And we all have people in our lives like that, just work, personal. I really enjoyed this person before, but they've kind of gone on a different bent in their life, and that's okay. We can't have everybody like us as long as we're fair, honest, and stick to our guns, right? Stick to the true quality of what we're trying to bring to the message.
Well, and one of the interesting, I'm looking over and you can see in my mess of a desk right now, they've got the Be Kind.
Be Kind.
The Be Kind coin. Okay, so here's an interesting question. If you, say you've got somebody that's a C player.
Okay.
And you'd like to elevate them.
Sure.
How, in your mind, do you have like a process that you, like, is there a process or is it kind of organic? Like, how do you, if you, like, where do you finally say, okay, I really want this person to be an A player because maybe it's because of what they can bring to the table. Maybe it's because of what you can offer them. Do you have a method or a process or that you can put in place that will help elevate them?
Absolutely. And we've already discussed it. I wouldn't actually say, hey, you're a C player.
No.
But so here's what I would do. I'd say, are you kidding me? You did this? You're really interesting. I would really like to get to know more about you. So how can we do that? If they say, well, can we get together I've got a girl I'm doing this with right now. Mm-hmm. I've met her on Facebook. And by the way, I don't just do this in Victoria. I actually reach out. I reach out to authors. Yep. I reach out to speakers around the world. And it's astonishing. I learned this from Derek Sivers. Mm-hmm. You write to them, they will write you back. And quite often, they're happy to meet you if you go to their home turf. I have met with bloggers in Sydney, Australia, this way. Like, it's incredible.
It's fascinating to me, like, when you're talking about the person who was offended because they weren't going to be able to speak. That, to me, is the difference between, because there's lots of people out there that have wide-ranging success. You've come across several, so have I. the ones that are doing really, really well generally don't respond that way.
No, absolutely not. This person had, and to be fair, I think this person, they sort of found a new passion in their life.
Right.
And they were championing it, but they went about it the wrong way.
Right.
And they felt that, because I always tout that our community is our community, which it is. It's not my community, it's our community.
Yep.
But I am still the responsible one.
So do you say to this person, like you said, went about it the wrong way? Do you actually, like, because you're direct, do you say, did you say, like, I mean, again, I'm paraphrasing, I respect your passion behind this,
Absolutely.
But you're going about this the wrong way.
Here's what I see. This is not working for me. I would rather you approach it like this. If we can start again with this, let's do it.
Yeah.
This individual came back and said, well, I appreciate that, but you're not seeing my point, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay.
So it's a block. Yeah, it's a block.
That's good. I said, well, Merry Christmas.
Well, it's like it's like improv, right? Like when I did improv, there's a point where there's a rule called blocking. So
Right.
if you and I were doing an improv scene and you were to say, oh, this is such a beautiful cat that you're petting, and I go, oh, no, that's a dog. That's blocking.
That's
like
blocking.
I literally killed your... And you're, so
It is.
you can't... I think that the tricky part, and again, I think this kind of when you were answering the initial question, which is, you can't change people's behavior in the terms of getting them to see your side of things or vice versa. So all you can try to do is find middle ground, right?
Right.
And when do you decide that, do you have like kind of and again, back to the process idea, do you have like after a certain amount of time, I'm gonna part ways. I'm gonna downgrade them. Let's say.
And it's not. And I'm sure
because some people really want to know, like, is there a clinic? Because again, people listening to the show are going to be like podcast. A lot of them love processes and frameworks and stuff like that. Your framework is not. I want to illustrate whether or not the framework is rigid in terms of kind of like a sales call, like cold, call one, call two. I don't think you do it that way.
It's not like that at all. And so let's look at it this way. So I've met this woman. I'll call her Danny. And I know several Dannys, so it's one of you. I've never met Danny face to face, but I've read some of her stuff on Facebook. We have several friends, and when I look at the friends that she has on Facebook, I see that we're of the same ilk. They're of the same creative ilk, writers, creative people, and I'm like, I like the energy this person is bringing. I reach out to them. Now, let's just say, for lack of a better word, they're a C player simply because we haven't met yet. I want to find out if they like what I do, like what I'm about, and if they like what we can do, how do I support them to be even bigger? I can expose them to a large community. And again, that doesn't matter if you have one friend, 700 friends, or two. If you can support that person to take them to the next level, then you reach out and say, hey, here's what I can do. I would love to talk with you. I find that these people are more than enthusiastic to come out. If they say, hey, I've really got this great idea. I'm going to put a dead chicken on my head and dance around. You go, well, that's not in what we do. Here's what we do, and here's how I see you fitting in. If that works for you, I'd love to have you. And people very quickly come around. Because one thing with my group is I do put up very direct boundaries. Like, we have no selling. We have one rule in my group. I think your listeners will find this interesting. Is we do a social mixer once a month, and we get about 70 to 80 people out. We're looking at 80 people for this month, and we have I stand up, I give a little speech, and I tell people right up front, no handing out business cards till the last 20 minutes, because we don't care what you do for a living. We care what you do for fun. Because when we get people connecting on their passion, the things they enjoy doing, their family, their kids, their hobbies, we like each other. And then once we like each other, then we're like, what do you do? Oh, actually, I work at this garage. Well, next time my car's going there because our kids play soccer together.
It's funny. You bring up something that I just recognized from a friend. I have a friend. His name's Rod. I'll gladly say his name. He was in theater like I was. He still is in theater. And, when I first met him, it was in the context of theater. And I didn't get a good read on him because of the wrappings that came with the theater. But then I saw him one day performing a theater piece wearing a New Jersey Devils jersey. And I'm a Devils fan.
You are.
And it flipped the switch. I'm like, there's more behind the curtain here. Rod and I now hang out very regularly. Interestingly, we were Devils fans. Then we started talking more. We found out we're both wrestling fans, WWE. And actually all wrestling, really. Rod comes over here literally probably either I go to his place or he comes here twice a month to watch the wrestling pay-per-views. And it's that we talk about theater sometimes because he's still in it.
Right.
But it's that friendship probably should never have happened based on what would have happened at face value.
Right.
But because I dug deeper, and it was me that, I mean, he didn't see me wearing a Devils jersey. Right. I walked up to him and...
But you said hello...
Yes.
First.
I said hello, and I think this is the other interesting. I said hello without the wrappings of because theater, and again, if you've ever hung out with actors, there's masks. There's all kinds of masks. In this case, I literally said, oh man, Devils, I love them. And I not only mentioned that, but I mentioned a specific component of it,
right?
Which meant that he knew that I knew what I was talking about. So it became this. Oh, all right. And then once we started talking about wrestling, that was it. We've been to hockey games together. When the Devils come and play Vancouver, we've gone to see those games.
Right.
He actually in my office, you could see. There's a ring, a New Jersey Devils ring, that he actually got. Like he bought beer, and there was rings coming with the different packs of beer. He got, he went to a bar, and the guy had like a bag of rings because they bought all. And he's like, he got himself a Devils ring, but he also got me one.
Right.
Like so, you never really would have think that these would happen. And you and I have the luxury of, because we work online and because we travel to different places, that sphere grows and grows and grows.
It grows also, though, and you've really touched on something that I think is so critical, and this is why Say Hello First is so important. Everybody is interesting. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And we have to sit there and just know you have a story or how that person has a story and take the opportunity to say hello. And you can talk about the weather. You can talk about their shoes. You can compliment them on... It does not matter. You say hello first and you open that door. I was talking to a lady last week, and she told me something, and again, I'm very direct, and this actually, she was quite offended. She told me that she goes to this swimming aerobics every day, like twice a week, and she's seen the same lady in her class every time, and she's always admired her style, because this lady's quite stylish. And I said, well, she goes, this week I actually decided I would go compliment her on her hat. And she's so nice. And we're actually going to go out for coffee. And I said, well, two things. Number one, that's wonderful. But number two, what took you so long? It's a hat.
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of upset her. She said, well, not everybody can do that. And I said, that's not true. That's not true. It is merely saying hello. Now, I understand that there are people that are anxious. I have a son who suffers from high anxiety. I get all that. I'm just saying the simple mechanics of saying, I really like your hat. That's all it took. Yeah. And now she's got this friendship.
Yeah, well, and a great read to help with that kind of, because it's the fear of rejection.
Of course.
And Zha Zhang, who's spoken at WDS, I think you saw him speak.
I did,
no, that was
familiar.
The year before. The book is called, I think it's not called Rejection Proof, but it's something about I'll link to it in the show notes. But his book is about rejection, and he did some big things.
Yeah.
So going up to somebody and saying, oh man, Devils, great team, or hey, I like your hat. If they dismiss you, and there's actually a great, I was reading the 4 Agreements, which I'm sure you've read before. Of course. One of the things is don't take it personally.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like dating. I mean, it's so funny. I'm a single guy now, and I'm falling into the dating world after 13, 14 years, which is crazy. I find making friendships is like dating. And if somebody doesn't want to date you or be your friend or take your compliment about a nice jersey, then do you really want to be friends with them anyway? And that's my take on it.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't appreciate your kind gesture to make an attempt to be friendly, then they're probably not the person you want to hang out with anyway. And that's a very easy way to dismiss that.
So, Dave, we're going to wrap up here, but before we do, where can people find you and your work? Because it's been an awesome conversation, and I definitely want people to connect with you and you to connect with them.
I would be honored. I'll do it first thing in the morning. DavidKnapp-Fisher.com is my site. I'm predominantly a speaker. I write, and connecting is really what I love to do. I'd love to answer any questions I can. Mike I'm sure you'll put the site in the notes. I've got a TED Talk on there too, which I'd love you to see because it's really about, the power of procrastination procrastination or not procrastinating with a very personal story I think you'll enjoy. So my kind of final thought here is, folks, it's very easy to connect, grow your circle, sphere of influence. Say hello first. Put down your phone in that lineup and just comment somebody. And when you do make that connection, once you know what they're doing, say, is there anything I can do to support you? And I promise you, those 2 steps will blow your world wide open. And it's pretty wonderful.
Awesome. Thanks so much, David.
Thanks, Mike.
Didn't I tell you it's always better when the person's right in front of me? It's just different. Maybe not always better, but definitely different, because we could feed off each other's energy in the room. That's why I love talking so much. And that's why I also love engaging with the patrons in the Patreon community so much, because while I don't necessarily always get face-to-face, except for those who are getting the highest level of patronage where they get coaching calls, but I get to interact with them directly in the Slack community. I get to interact with them in Patreon, and I get to offer them 2 bonus episodes every single week. So you may be one of those people listening to this episode right now, because you also get this episode a little bit earlier than everybody else. So if you want to be a Patreon supporter of the show, if you want to back the show monetarily, head over to patreon.com/productivityist and learn how you can do that. If you're not able to do that or not willing to do that, totally cool. But what I'd love is if you subscribe to the show, that's great. If you give the show a rating and review, that's even better, because that will help me make the show even better, and it'll help people find the show as well. That's it for this week's episode. If you are a Patreon supporter, I'll see you with bonus episodes later this week. If not, I will see all of you next week. Big thanks to podcast producer John Polstra for putting things together again this week. And until next time, I am your host, Mike Vardy, saying goodbye. Until next time. And remember, stop guessing and start going.